I've got some. I'm trying to look at the we need to adjust our clock.
That's
I want to welcome everybody to our board meeting and start off by recognizing our newest board member, Anita Klopnick. Well, welcome to the board. I know we did it informally in the room, but now it's formal. And normally at this point, we would be taking up our minutes and all. I understand we have a student report and that our student has to leave early. So Darren, do you want to introduce our?
Yes, Governor Fleischer, thank you for altering the schedule for us. We have a pathophysiology class at 2, is that right? So unless Dean Straight's going to call in some favors for us. This is Danielle Campbell, and I'm going to turn it over to Danielle. She is a secretary of the Student Senate, but she was selected to represent Missouri Southern at the 29th Annual Missouri Governor's Leadership Forum. And so she'll talk to you about that, but that's over 200 students from Missouri get together. It was last week before last.
Week before last.
In the Capitol, and it occurs the same time as the governor's prayer breakfast. But they get to meet the governor. They were in the mansion and had a wide variety of different leadership speakers that they were able to take advantage of. So I'll turn it over to Danielle just to give you a brief report of how our students are representing us at the Capitol as well.
So once again, thank you for allowing me to speak a little bit early. Like Darren said, my name is Danielle, and I'm a senior nursing major here at Missouri Southern. Basically, when I went into this, I was expecting, okay, it's the typical leadership forum. It's one of those things where you go, you show your resume, and you learn how can I improve myself and my leadership goals. One thing that was very interesting, though, was this wasn't the typical student leadership forum. It was actually based on Jesus Christ and his actions in leadership. So we looked at far more than just being a leader in a business. We looked at how we could lead in a community. We all know that, yeah, we do lead in the company or in the school or whatever, we do lead. But we also have to realize that our leadership expands outside of just our job. So through this leadership opportunity, we were able to talk to religious refugees that were here in the United States. We talked to homeless college students. We went to the Jefferson City State Penitentiary, which was a level 5 security level. So it was a very, very intense, eye-opening experience. We also talked to Ferguson leaders and the people who went in and were able to take care of the Ferguson issues that were happening. So we talked about that. We also learned how to become vulnerable in a leadership forum or in a leadership position, which I think is definitely something that they really hit upon is we're leaders, but we have to be vulnerable and we have to be humans because that's what's required to make a good leader. We did a ton of stuff. Like Darren mentioned, we also went and we had dinner with the governor. We sat, we talked to him. We went to the prayer breakfast the day after. So it was 3 days and it was filled with just a ton of experiences that definitely any other leadership forum I don't believe that we would have. So I thank you guys for allowing me to represent Missouri Southern in that at Jeff City. And I want to open this to questions if you guys have any.
So what surprised you the most about the penitentiary?
You know when you watch like Orange is the New Black or Cops or any of those shows, and you see this closed gate, you're in a cell, you're secluded or you have a roommate type issue, but then you actually go in there and it's, their own little world in a sense. So we actually saw where the furniture that we buy here at Missouri Southern, we saw that being made. We saw uniforms for police officers being made. We saw all these different things that really showed it was a community, but at the same time you sat and you talked to the prisoners and it was a, what do you miss most? And it was, I miss eating breakfast at 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock. Or I miss being able to go outside and look at the stars in the middle of the night. It was those small freedoms that you don't really think about until you're in that situation and you're in that position where you go in thinking, if I was a prisoner, what would my life look like. So that was definitely something that was very eye-opening.
Do we have any other questions for Danielle?
One of the things about the leadership forum, and you heard her mention, Danielle mentioned that it was based on Jesus Christ. It's not a religious leadership workshop. And the governor wants to make sure that folks know that he is conducting a leadership workshop. They look at Jesus Christ as a servant leader and how he served people and how the students do. And so it wasn't, put on the Southwest Baptist or a particular denomination. And their big thing was, I think, from talking to Danielle, the students were asked not, how do you think that you will impact or change the world? It's a definite, how are you planning to change the world? And then how does that relate to the servant leadership? So I thought that was a very interesting take on their studies there.
And even building off of that, we had a girl in one of our small groups. So we had our main large group, which was all of the students about, I'd say close to 200. But then we had small groups, which was 10 to 15 people. And one of the girls wasn't Christian, and that was one of her things she said. When I came here, I was expecting, this full out, here are our Bibles, this is what we're going to do. And she said it wasn't like that, but at the same time, I learned so much and was able to take these applications as Jesus Christ as a person and how he served and how he lived. And so I thought that was very interesting because we did have all walks of life. We had people who were Muslim, we had non-believers, we had Christians. So it really made up a wide, just encompassed a lot of beliefs that I thought that was also interesting because we did get to see those different viewpoints.
I'm sure that the government is very careful to separate church and state.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, of
It's the
course.
servant leadership part. They've used Gandhi before, and people, and Jesus as well as a model of servant leadership.
For sure.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much,
Thank
Danielle.
you.
We appreciate your presentation. We're glad you were able to participate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would point out that was over their holiday break that she volunteered to go to Jefferson City, so we appreciate her representing us well at this point.
At this point, we'll go back to our regular schedule and we'll take up the minutes of our November 20th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections?
I'll move approval.
Second. Have a motion by Mr. Gibson, second by Mr. McCumber. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. And now we'll ask Ms. Linda Ice, our treasurer, for a report.
Thank you and good afternoon. You received both the November and December 2015 statements in your board packets, but we will review the most current statements, which is the December 2015. The first thing we'll take a look at is the cash graph, and it reflects a balance of $605 million. And we've talked about this before. Our cash is cyclical and it follows the beginning and ending of the semester. So we had expected a lower balance at the end of December as we are at the end of the semester. I also talked a little bit last time, and I just wanted to reiterate this again, with what the ending January balance will look like. Our semester started 1 week later this year versus last year. Right now, we are currently on day 3 of the semester, and last year we were already into our second week of classes. So there's a very large cash spike when financial aid disbursements happen at the beginning of a semester. Because of the 1 week variance, last year that spike happened in January. You can see here on the cash graph that we were hovering around the $20 million mark. For this year, that won't take place until the first week of February. So when you get the statements for January, at the end of January, we're going to be pretty comparable to our December balance. We anticipate that, we know that that's going to happen, and it really all is timing. It has a huge impact when you're talking about millions of dollars in activity. It will be noticeable. Even this week, we're already starting to see the beginning of the semester activity on student accounts. Fees are due next Wednesday, January 27th. And just as of this morning, our current cash balance is at $9.2 million. So that kind of gives you an idea of how quickly it changes just week to week and day by day.
What was that number? I'm sorry.
$9.2 million.
Thank you.
When we move on to the statement of net position, total assets are at $137 million. Total liabilities are at $76 million, and that gives us total net position of $61 million. The next statement that I wanted to take a look at was the comparative statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. And we always take a look at the difference column. So you can see that total operating revenues are up, comparing the 2 years, by $1.5 million. This is excellent. Tuition is up, auxiliary enterprises are up, state grants are up. A lot of the state grants are the Access Missouri money that goes to the students, and we've had a lot more activity in those grants this year. And we anticipate that those will be the same come the spring semester once we do those disbursements. Operating expenses are up by $1.2 million. I did want to note the compensation line that shows a variance there. We had an extra pay period through the end of December. So from July through December, we've had 13 pay periods, and last year we had only had 12. So that's really what that particular variance is. We also, utilities are up somewhat. Obviously, we have a larger physical plant footprint than what we had last year. So utilities are up somewhat on that. When we look at the comparative difference between the 2 years on the income before the revenues, we are up almost $400,000. This once again points to the operations are doing very well. We're doing a great job on the revenue and the expense side of the house, and we are seeing the positive numbers and the impact of that. So operations are doing very well. Another item I wanted to point out on here is the capital appropriations from the state, the $61,000 that you see on there. That is our first reimbursement request for the Reynolds Hall project in the state of Missouri. In addition, in January, we've also received another $92,000 payment, so that's working really smoothly. They're reimbursing us just about as quickly as we can get the invoices up there, and the turnaround time has been very quick. I've been very pleased with that process. That concludes my report, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Linda, I know at our last board meeting, we talked about the need for cashing in some of the CDs
Yes,
because
sir.
of the cash flow, and that did take place.
Yes, sir. We did cash in 2 CDs. We were able to do that. We got the board approval for that, and that did take place.
We don't see any need for doing that anytime in the near future.
No, sir, we do not. We do not. There will be a big change in our cash position over the next two weeks once the student fees are going to be paid next, starting to be paid in. But like I said, we've seen some of that activity this week. The fees are due next week, so students will be paying their bills at that time, and then we'll have the financial aid disbursement that will take place the first week of February. So we are in good shape.
But you won't see that till February report, which is.
That is
In
correct.
February is when it'll be reflected on it. Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Any other questions? If not, we thank you for your report, and we'll move on to our Mr. Rob Eust, our Vice President for Business Affairs.
Thank you. I'll give you a brief construction report. First thing off is the Reynolds Hall lab remodeling. Linda mentioned that we are receiving reimbursement for that on a as-needed basis, and we continue to submit invoices as they come up. The design development phase is complete, and the architects are working on construction drawings for that project. Those drawings should be complete by the end of March so that the project can be bid out to the subs at that time, probably get it back in April. The third floor of Reynolds has been emptied, and the contractor will begin light demo of that floor. And what I mean about light demo, that is ceiling tiles, floors, asbestos abatement, anything that's not going to cause a lot of noise and disruption to the classes that are still being held in Reynolds Hall. They'll try to be real quiet with that demo that's going on. The major demo of that facility on that third floor, which are the cinder block walls, anything that's going to make a lot of noise, will happen after the end of this semester and prior to the start of the summer semester. So they have about 2 weeks to 3 weeks that they have to get in, get after it, and get out of there. And they said they can do that with no problem. So things are progressing well on that project. The Reynolds Annex, this annex is complete, occupied, and in use this week, and we'll discuss that a little bit later in the new business when I make a presentation. And finally, the trail project with the city of Joplin. We contacted the city this week. The city, if you recall, back last year, the reason this thing got put on a back burner is that they had to do some different re-engineering with the floodplain. And that was due to FEMA looking at that, so the whole thing changed. It's almost like you had to start over again. And so we had the city, this is the city's project, the city had to request letters from Jasper County and for some reason the city of Webb City and the city of Duquesne saying that they did not object to changing the base floodplain. Bottom line is they got the letters, they fill out a new application with FEMA, that will be sent in with a new check by the city soon. And according to the Public Works Director, very slow but steady progress on the project, whatever that means. We're progressing ahead and we'll be ready when they're ready. Regarding the budget process is in full swing. Jeff is gathering information daily from various sources. Like I mentioned at the lunch, we'll have to have a budget meeting in February sometime, so Governor McCumber will arrange that. The initial state budget was released last night in connection with the Governor's State of the State address. As of now, Missouri Southern is set to receive an additional 5.5% in fiscal year 17. In addition, we are to receive an additional $3 million for a satellite dental program in collaboration with the UMKC Dental School. And we'll discuss that further at the budget meeting in February. Anybody have any questions?
Just one question, did we have any actual flooding in the heavy rains we had in December?
We had a little bit of problems in some of the buildings that you really didn't expect. Plaster Hall received a little bit of flooding. Some of the areas that we thought we would have flooding, like Hummel, didn't receive anything significant, but overall we came through it pretty good.
I was thinking of the floodplain where we're having to.
Now, I know it came close over in the end zone facility. I don't know what you want to call it, not lagoon, but what they built on the north end of that filled up pretty quick and it reached the parking lot, but it didn't go further than that.
Retention basin.
The water
Retention basin, there you go.
That thing it's like 20-something feet deep, and it was the brim.
Came close.
How about the steam pipe issue?
I'm sorry?
The steam pipe issue?
After the 7th, thank you for that.
We found it.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what we're referring to, a couple of weeks ago we had a loss of hot water pressure on campus. I think we're the second day into coming back from the break. And so all of our buildings are heated by the hot water, and so we lost a lot of heat in a lot of the buildings, so we had to let people go. The problem is when the campus was built back 50 years ago.
We let them go home.
Let a lot of people go. Let them go home.
Let them go home. In their infinite wisdom, when they built the campus, the miles and miles of pipe around the oval is 10 feet down and encased in a concrete chase of about this big. And you can't tell where the leak is unless you periodically go dig a hole where the concrete chase is, go down, open the top of the concrete chase, stick something down there to see if it's wet. If it's not, move on down the line, find it. Only took us 7 holes. But we did find it. And it happened to be, as fate would have it, very directly under the Empire feed. Right under it. So we had to have them come out and rearrange the power issue, which we didn't lose any power. We were good with that. But it was coincidental, it was just directly underneath it. We got it remedied, tentatively. We hope not to have that issue again, but we know we probably will. This is the reason for it, so a lot of deferred maintenance money from the state. We need to have that if we can get it.
You might not predict this, but Rob was on edge.
Surely not. Surely not.
It was right outside my window, and I just kept watching.
He was out there holding a shovel for a while. I took a picture of it. I'll send it to you.
Any more questions? Thanks, Mitch.
For no further questions, we thank you for your report, and I neglected to ask for a motion to approve Ms. Ice's report.
So made.
I have a motion by Mr. McCumber. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Flanagan. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving Ms. Ice's report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? You are now approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move on with a report from Mr. Jared Brueggemann, Athletic Director.
Thank you. First, you do have in front of you a season pass for baseball. If you're a linebacker, you would already be admitted, or if you're staff or student, okay, you should get it for free admission as well. But if not, there you go. So that'll get you in. It does have the schedule, knowing that the sport of baseball is outside. It changes very regularly. So don't count on that being as accurate as you hope. So our first game is February 12th. So if you're looking forward to that. A couple things here. The NCAA agreed upon procedures audit was completed and the initial report was reviewed by the institution. We have not received the final copy yet. We did. Okay, we got it. So I'll bring that to the next board meeting. But there were no findings in there, and it's pretty incredible actually. If you look at this report, the amount of information that they go through with the NCAA. They were here for 3 or 4 days, and they go through all the documents and check everything over. So I think it's important to recognize the amount of effort that goes on this campus from all sorts of folks, not just the athletics department, but really the business office, the financial aid, admissions, and all those areas to make that where you have no findings. My previous institution, the reason why I was hired there was because they had 57 findings in theirs, and resulted in leadership change with that. So for us to have nothing show up is pretty incredible. So thanks to everybody for doing that. We came back from the NCAA National Convention in San Antonio, and the major focus of that was life in the balance, which is again the pushing agenda for the NCAA Division II. Division II continues to try and drive its brand. It's got a new brand now, Make It Yours, by pushing the agenda for the uniqueness of Division II and how it encapsulates the student-athlete overall experience. It's not the Division I model, which you see a lot about it. We really have our own unique vision of them being a student and an athlete at the same time. So that was good. As far as a couple other points here, academic success as far as the athletics department goes, we have a cumulative GPA of 340 student athletes of a 3.08 GPA.
What was it again?
3.08 from this past fall. So that's the highest it's been since I've been here in the last 6 years. Originally it was about 2.7 6 years ago, and it's been steadily moving up. But a 3.08 cumulative is pretty impressive. Obviously they're doing the right stuff in the classroom. The highest on the women's side was volleyball with about a 3.58 GPA average, which is, if you add up all my GPAs in college, I didn't get that. And men's golf actually had the highest on the men's side with about a 3.2, which is interesting because they travel Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so they miss a lot of class, and they're still have the highest GPA, which is great. The final thing is we did hire a new soccer coach, and it's Chris McNaughton. He was introduced last week. He was the top assistant at Arkansas Little Rock and Louisiana Monroe, as well as the head coach at Ottawa, Kansas in his past. So we're excited to have him as a coach on our staff. That concludes my report.
Questions?
Would you happen to know like what an average would be in D2 for a GPA average for athletes?
I do not know that. The general rule is you try to go for a 3.0. That's kind of what your target is. If you can get above a 3.0, that's kind of what you shoot for. I'm not actually sure. They don't really share that information too much around. Conference-wise, though, I will say that we received an award 2 years ago as having the highest graduation rate in our conference, so it was pretty significant.
I think those are great numbers. Thank you.
I have a question. So what do you attribute the increase in the GPA to? Have there been different programs? I mean, since the time that you started to now?
Well, a few things. First, we have invested some resources departmentally into programs. We have an academic advisor. Actually, this position's open right now, but we have an academic advisor. We've put an emphasis on study tables, working with Darren's area as far as having tutors available. There's the same tutors available to all campus, but we try to schedule those so we can get the student athletes over there. And just really an emphasis with the coaches that, hey, you know, let's get these kids to graduate, let's get them in class, make sure they're doing all the right stuff. So.
Jared, is the APR rating system used in Division II?
We have a similar rating system. It's called ARS. As a matter of fact, Division II started that prior to Division I doing that. So we do have that, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we're fairly high as far as that. Our graduation rates are very high as far as student athletes, but we don't get penalized like you see in Division I with the APR. There's no penalties that are sanctions that are applied to you if you don't hit certain thresholds.
Any other questions?
If not, we thank you for your report, and we'll now call on Dr. Brad Hodson, Executive Vice President.
Good afternoon. You have a copy of my written report in front of you, and I'll highlight a few items from that document. Fundraising for Reynolds Hall, you know, our major campaign right now is to raise $1.5 million to match the state's $1.5 million investment in that facility. And you can see that as of today, we're just over the halfway point. Really that began aggressively in late October, early November, so it's been very well received. You can see from the graph at the right, handful of the namespaces, and most notably the largest namespace, the $250,000 lecture hall, have been spoken for by donors. I did put at each of your place settings a copy of the solicitation packet that we take out to visit with donors about the project, and you can see information about the project, why the renovations are needed, and all of that is contained in this. This document's very helpful as you sit down in someone's living room or at their desk and you walk through the importance of Reynolds Hall, the importance of the renovations, and how they can play a role. This is a very helpful document. Under admissions, we have provided you with some updated enrollment numbers as of yesterday, the first week of classes. We don't provide that to you as an official statement of our enrollment, but only so you get a sense of momentum as we are heading through the first 4 weeks of class towards the 20th day when we put forward our official enrollment numbers each semester. And so these are not official numbers. It's not where we will end up, but it's to give you a sense of how the semester is going in the first week from an enrollment perspective. And so that second paragraph that begins with a word of caution is important because we do have on Wednesday the 27th of this month the drop date for non-payment of tuition and fees. Now about half, a little over half of the students that are dropped for non-payment will come in with their payment and get right back into class, but that number, that drop date will cause us to lose some students as it does every semester. And so we just wanted to give you a sense of where we were today compared to last year, knowing we're heading into that drop date next Wednesday. The 20th day is, I think it's the 12th of February. So that's when official numbers will be released. But just as another note of momentum, the fall is looking very, very promising. We actually have pulled the front office, front desk receptionist in admissions off of that, put a student there because we needed her in the back to help process applications. And so the fall is looking very, very good again as you take a year-to-date look at applications and those type of metrics. On the back, you'll notice that we did mail Crossroads Magazine out to about 30,000 alumni and friends. You have a copy of that at your place. Again, my congratulations to the folks in University Relations that put this document together. We started from scratch last year to recreate the Crossroads Magazine, new format, new look, everything top to bottom. And we've gotten a lot of great comments from alumni and friends about how well received the magazine is. It will go out again in April, and so we'll do it twice a year. You'll see there on the back there's a picture of the university's booth at the Joplin Business Expo. We did, for the second year in a row, win the People's Choice Award, which is the best booth at the expo. And again, that credit goes to the folks in University Relations that put the theme together and did a lot of the work, along with the Placer School of Business, Intercollegiate Athletics, and the bookstore. And so that's a joint effort on behalf of the entire institution. The last thing I'll point out, I did provide you with a copy of our legislative priorities document at your place. This is the document that when we sit down with elected officials in Jefferson City and talk about what are the university's priorities for the state for the coming year. This is the document we use. I used it yesterday when I was in the Capitol building with about a dozen legislators just sitting down talking about Missouri Southern and what we were asking the state to invest in the institution. And it's the front 2 pages here. And for those of you that in the lunch we were talking about the map that showed our neighboring states and the disparity in investment in higher education, that's the map we were referencing. But there are lots of interesting statistics in this document about the institution and how we compare to our peers and what our priorities are strategically and financially. And so I provide this to you for your reference, but it's a very helpful document in visiting with elected officials about our needs at the state level. With that, I'm done.
Any questions of Dr. Hodson?
I have one. Brad, I thought this was great. I got to preview it in the fall when I went to the meeting, but I almost threw it away because the logo and Missouri Southern was not on the front. So if I could give any feedback, those of us that get a lot of junk mail, sometimes it didn't catch my attention that it was from Missouri Southern. So that would be either a logo or something with the name on the front. I missed it when it first came out, but
You are absolutely
once
right.
I got into it, I thought it was really
Good.
terrific.
Good. And I think on the next issue, you'll see a big Missouri Southern on the cover. So, one of the things that was different about this magazine, we had traditionally saddle stitched our magazine, which is the staples down the side, and this is permabound. And the magazine just isn't quite thick enough for you to catch that. And so putting it on the front is a great suggestion, something that once we got it in our hands and looked at it, realized this doesn't carry the message like something on the front would. So, thank you.
It was really good.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we thank you for your report, and I will now call on our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Paula Carson.
Thank you so much. So delighted to see you all back. Hope you had a good holiday. I'm going to start by saying when we had the pipe break, I thought it was a geyser, a geology experiment, and I thought it was kind of cool, much cooler than Rob thought, not cool at all. So I'm like, oh, we can go study that. Second of all, at the end of my report, I'm happy to actually share nice, unboring documents with you today, and so this might be my one and only time this year. But what I have for you is a report that is a little bit looking forward to what we're going to start studying academically and policy-wise this year in 2016. Just a few little minor changes that we've made over the past couple of weeks since we have last gathered as a group. So academic policy issues are those items that will have been shared with our faculty at our faculty meeting last week and through various committees. They will be deliberated through committees of the Faculty Senate, through administrative committees, and through academic leadership structures, whatever's the most appropriate mechanism. But these are the things we're beginning to look at. I wanted to present them and give you an opportunity to understand why we look at things that may just seem so trivial and trite and how they will impact the larger picture of what we do. The first is the issue of student residency. Residency means that we have to, as an institution, affirm the quality of our graduates prior to giving them an actual degree with our credential. We need to make sure that they are accomplished, that have mastered the learning goals, and in order to do that, we need to have them here a certain amount of time. Our current policy is 30 out of the last 36. HLC and our accreditors require that students complete at least 30 hours at the institution from which they graduate. But the larger issue is this really reflective of transitional mobility patterns of students today? So students will come and they will go somewhere for summer or go study abroad and complete some hours at a different institution. Often happens in the senior year. They will pursue experiential opportunities or service learning. That means they want to transfer in credits the last 30 of the 36, and whereby we have a petition process to enable that to happen. It's occurring more and more, and we are looking to, and the registrar's recommendation is actually not deviating from the 30, but maybe requiring students to complete 30 out of the last 60, out of their final 60 here as well. We want to make sure that we are not doing anything to dissuade students from completing here by having onerous residency requirements that are more restrictive than our benchmark peer institutions. Second is upper division. What does it mean to be an upper division? Right now, we really, and historically, I believe this has varied, but we don't have a gateway through which students progress from lower to upper division. We don't have a unified GPA. We don't have a common body of courses, specific numbers and types of courses students have to successfully complete before they get into upper division courses that are supposed to have a more varied pedagogy as well as more rigorous content. We need to make sure that they have established and are competent in their gen ed, the state gen ed requirements with regard to critical thinking and problem solving and effective communication, because then they'll be more successful in upper division. And we like to have students who are not intermingled in terms of different levels of academic maturity. So we are looking at imposing some sort of criteria for a student to enter into upper division, be that prerequisite. There's a whole variety of different things. Most extreme circumstances, some institutions will require students to pass essentially a standardized test in order to get into upper division to demonstrate their competence and ability to succeed in upper division. It's not likely a place that we are going to go, but we want to make sure students are prepared for the harder work. So it's going to potentially be a very significant study involving a lot of individuals. We also have a degree called Bachelor's of General Studies. We have about 200 students in that major right now, and there are two reasons for any institution to have a Bachelor of General Studies. One is a safety net program when students struggle in a specific curriculum, or they transfer in. It's going to be 2 more years for them to graduate without a degree, and so it gives them a way to complete college without onerous or undue burden on them. The other primary purpose of a Bachelor of General Studies is to actually allow students to customize a unique interdisciplinary major, if you will, that does not exist. So allows them to integrate an interest in maybe a particular language as well as a particular liberal arts or science or education or the like. Right now, we have a very, very unstructured general studies. I can't necessarily guarantee that students who are graduating have any, beyond the gen ed, any sort of common body of knowledge that's going to contribute to their professional success. So we are looking at identifying recommended tracks within general studies, and we are also really going to undertake identifying what are the specific learning objectives that we want all students who major in general studies to have, and they are very much going to be rooted in critical thinking, critical communication. We are undertaking a look at DFW rates. DFW rates are the percentage of students in a class that complete that course, stay in the course and complete with either a D or F, or drop that course. W is withdraw at some point after the refund date in the semester. Obviously, academically, we don't strive to have students languishing in that category. We would rather our students be successful, but there's a whole host of reasons why courses may have that. It may be that we don't have appropriate prerequisites, that there are structural barriers. It could be that the course is being taught by individuals whose credentials don't match the requirements of the course. There's a whole menu of options. So we have identified, we've run them all. We know, looking at the data from this last semester, what the DWF rates are for all the courses. The deans have looked at their own courses. Now the deans are looking at each other's courses to ensure that we pick 5 to 7 that we're going to try and adjust and really improve. It's very impactful on student retention. We made several changes to SIP codes. SIP codes are the code that describes what is the subject matter of course. That becomes very important in the state of Missouri because one of the original proposals is that institutions would be funded more significantly for STEM courses and degree programs that are offered in STEM area, and the way those are defined is by what we call the SIP codes, Department of Education codes. Historically, it hasn't meant a whole lot. Didn't really matter what the SIP code was. Going forward, it means very, very significantly that the fund allocation to institutions, to public universities could be impacted. So we want to make sure we're positioned to optimize the funds that we get from the state. We want to make sure that everything is due to us. We do receive, and since we have such heavy courses and enrollment in science and health sciences, we're very, very heavily rooted in STEM, which could increase the funding that we get. Critical thinking and communication minor at this point is being developed. We are looking at this as a way for our students to be able to differentiate themselves in terms of a much broader breadth and depth of courses and problem solving, global problem identification, problem solving, critical thinking, but also communication, critical communication. So we have an initial cohort of 24 hours, student credit hours, that are very much trying to enrich this area, and some learning goals. That stands with the deans right now, and then it will go to relevant committees. It came from a faculty group and is at deans right now. It's very, very important because we're looking at this being a nucleus area of study for our Yours Toulouse, which are KCU students, and embedding this as a requirement. It's one of the expectations of KCU that our students know how to learn, that we teach them how to learn, that we teach them how to internalize large amounts of material, that we help them to study and to understand what it really does mean to critically think given the life and death implications. But we think this could be a very, very interesting set of courses and opportunity for all of our students and a way to potentially differentiate the institution from others. So we're continuing to work on that. Finally, a big focus this semester, and during my time here already, I've gotten 3 emails on it, development of the Yours Toulouse. You all have the MOU. I'm very grateful for the many of you that were able to come to the signing, but this is the actual MOU. It's a very important partnership in that it is a collaboration, because when we admit students to the Yours Toulouse cohort at Missouri Southern, we're admitting them to KC Medical School. And so we want to be very, very good, responsible partners. We have developed our internal admissions requirements, and we have developed what we believe to be our internal curriculum that meets all of their needs and all of our needs. We have developed, and Alan, I haven't even shared this with you, we have developed a 3-year option. It is very burdensome. It's a very difficult curriculum.
I'll love it.
Yeah, you'll love it. I love it. So very, very difficult to compress a very rigorous pre-med curriculum enriched by all of these critical thinking and language requirements and others into 3 years. But it can be done. We just don't know if anybody can do it. Theoretically, philosophically, it can be done. Tomorrow we are spending the day with KCU. Their team is traveling down here, and we'll talk about the admissions requirements and the curriculum. We're very much hoping that we'll be able to admit our first cohort in the fall of 16. We will admit a cohort of 25 guaranteed, plus we are looking at alternates that range somewhere between 20 and 30, depending on the optimal size for us as well, so that we ensure we use all of our spots, but that we're educating a large group of students that would be very, very well positioned to succeed in medical school. HLC is a topic you'll probably be hearing increasingly more about as we gather each session this year. We have a first visit to Jane, Missouri. Crowder College has a very, very nice facility in Jane, Missouri. We are trying to support collaborative programs and outreach, as well as just our own recruitment. So we have a teacher ed curriculum instruction cohort, master's cohort down there. We're traveling this week to Jane to visit with HLC to review that program and make sure that it meets their particular needs in anticipation for our upcoming big HLC visit. We changed, and this has been something I've been very excited about, we've changed our foreign language major and course offerings to modern languages. Foreign languages was an outdated term, but as part of this, modern languages is looking at a variety of innovative things. First of all and foremost, a way that we can continue to cost effectively maintain our instruction in both Chinese and Japanese, because that's a strategic differentiator. 2, looking at a very popular movement, which is the inclusion of sign language as a modern language, and teaching that and supporting the disability community in that particular area. And the third thing is coming up with a language certificate. So we want to make sure, as you all know, as there's been adverse financial situation in higher ed, most institutions have retrenched in the numbers of languages that they have taught. And many modern language departments have been casualty of fiscal crisis altogether across the United States. Because of our international mission, we're very committed to trying to keep that healthy, and so we're always making sure that we're doing whatever we can to generate enrollment participation in the languages. A couple of activities coming up that are either reminders or introducing you to the first time. The research fair is going to be held here at Missouri Southern on April 18th. We would love to have you. This is a undergraduate student research fair, and we are this year looking at how it has historically been working and how we can expand it to be of interest and to make sure the format is equally applicable to all majors, undergraduate and graduate as well. Perhaps looking at community involvement, maybe even looking at some innovative things for a research fair. But so far it's been well received. It's historically been housed in Plaster School of Business, and we are expanding that campus wide. We also want to let you know that tomorrow night there is an event that will celebrate the launch of a new publication called Vivid. It's our fine arts magazine. When this particular magazine was created, there was some change in our PR publication portfolio, and Vivid is a magazine that is being produced with heavy student engagement and involvement in the Department of Communications, and so we are going to have a celebration at a gallery, a place called the Focal Point Gallery, 525 Main Street, beginning at 5:30 to 7. And if it's convenient and you all are able, would love to have you there. My final point is I'm very proud to share with you the Focus on Faculty. It's a publication probably many of you have seen before, but it is specifically focused on awards, recognitions, and intellectual and scholarship accomplishments of our faculty. And they are quite a few. It's something we put out on a regular basis. And so I encourage you to look through it. I think it's always just so rewarding and inspiring to see all the different things that occur here on this campus behind the scenes that you never know about, and there's not great fanfare about them, but they're so impactful to the professional community, to the academics, and to the world at large. So I hope you enjoy that. I thank you for your time.
Questions of Dr. Carson?
Just a comment if I could. Just in glancing through this document here, it's very, very informative. But I see the issue on the accounting program and the online accounting being selected number 8 out of the top 50 online in the country. I'm sure that's something that we can promote and make good use of as we get into our more online classes. So very impressed with that.
Thank you. It was actually in Brad's report, I believe, with regard to the promotion budget, and we are rolling out our Masters in Management, which is another. So those two are great master's programs for a school of business, because they're not really pervasive, and both of them we try to be very flexible in admitting students from diverse backgrounds. So I think they'll be very good and collaborative together. Thank you.
Before we leave, if you don't mind, a couple things. One is that you accidentally said college again.
Again,
And I
yet
think
again.
We
I
need
can't
to
make it
deal with that
without.
at some point in the future, and renaming our schools colleges. So we'll be back to that. The other is on the Focus on Faculty. The first one, it's Friday. First little thing, we'll have a couple more of those in the spring that'll be scheduled, and you would be welcome to attend. I think you'd certainly find it interesting, very stimulating things to have scheduled.
Yeah, our first one will be at the end of February. We haven't, probably by 5 o'clock today, we would have actually finalized an actual date, but we have two very, very good presenters lined up for this semester. I think you will be very diverse in their topics as well as their presentation style. So I think you'll enjoy it, and we'll be glad to let you know and have you.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you, sir.
We will now call on Mr. Darren Fullerton, Vice President for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management.
Thank you, Governor Fleischhager. A couple things to point out, and you will pick up things Dr. Carson just referenced, Dr. Hodson's report. I'm going to tag team on both of their reports. Many times we get focused on a particular issue. Dr. Carson mentioned the DFW rates. And we forget, we look at one aspect of that, the participation in the course and how that affects them. Many times we forget to look beyond that and see what the other ramifications are. Dr. Hodson talked about the drop for non-payment next week. We will have students drop, half of those will reinstate, some of the others will trickle in, and just the amount of work on the student side and the faculty and staff side to do that. With the DFW rates, the thing that kept coming to my mind is not necessarily just the impact on the student academically in their grades, but especially with the financial aid issue, and the majority of our students receive financial aid. And if they drop at a certain point in the semester, they have to pay that financial aid back. We're required as an institution to pay the federal government back, and then those students are required to pay us back. For many of our students, that's a challenge, and that's why they struggle to come back the next semester, especially even if their grades are in good standing, and that's why many of them use the W to withdraw so that they don't have a negative impact on a GPA. And so those are the things that, and Dr. Marble with the University Council has a question at the end of that every time: what happens to our students? You know, what happens to a student once they become a student, or even before they become a student? And I think those are some of the things that we've been trying to look at, and those are some of the things that we've talked about. And I apologize for the folks that were at the faculty meeting on Friday. They've already heard this story, so I'll try to be brief. But Dr. Marble did want me to mention a few things. Many of you remember the old days of an actual phone-a-thon where you sit down and people called you and you didn't have cell phones, you called the landline. We did an enroll-a-thon. When many of us sitting around the table were in college, there was a sense of urgency, so you stood in line and you got your punch card in those days for some of us, and you saw your advisor, and there was panic if you didn't get in those classes early. After commencement, the Monday after commencement in the fall, we had 1,600 students that were in classes in the fall that didn't pre-register for the spring. 1,600. So we started, and that's typical semester to semester. That sense of urgency is not there. And as Linda talked about, that's a significant impact on the financials. We established a call-a-thon, an enroll-a-thon. We had 2 days, one in January, one in December, before the break. We actually got a hold of students and, of course, left messages for several others. We enrolled approximately 50 students, or a little over 50 students, on the spot at each of those. We had advisors from admissions, financial aid, the ACTS office. A lot of those people were there. If there were issues, the students could be dealt with on the spot. Not only did we enroll those 100 students, but between December and the Friday that we came back for classes, or for the semester, we enrolled over 1,000 of those students. So we took that 1,600 list. Now there are 500 and some students, 569 on that list. The important thing is, very important, we got the 1,000 enrolled and they're here with us this semester. Looking at the 569 that were on that list, the top 12 of those are 4.0 students. And so it's not necessarily the students that are just struggling. 348 out of the 569 were above a 2.5 GPA. And so again, life is happening to those students, but I think that's what, looking at all the different pieces, that's what I took away from that it's a spider web or a ripple effect that we have to figure out what is happening in the life of those students. The Enroll-a-thon was a great success. We're going to continue to try to do that. Some of the other things that we've done, we've worked with Academic Affairs and done some realigning of actual departments. The Advising, Counseling, Testing Department reported to me. Distance Learning has reported to Dr. Carson and Academic Affairs. Each of those groups had advisors, and each of those groups had various testing. We did a realignment with the Advising. We've combined the Distance Learning advisors with the Advising, Counseling, and Testing Center advisors. So the Distance Learning advisors no longer just have online students. They actually are helping our ACTS advisors with all our undeclared students. We average about 500 to 600 students at any given time in the semester that are undeclared. At the highest point last semester, we had 900 and some students that were undeclared at any given, at one particular time. That's a lot of students to be advising. They don't have an academic home music business or what have you. So we did a realignment. That's what the advising and the testing realignment is there. The advisors are now working together to advise all of these students. Testing, we combine. Distance Learning had traditionally dealt with just the online students and their proctoring exams and those sort of things. The Advising, Counseling, Testing Center dealt with our national standardized test that you see some listed there. That's a combined area now, and we're trying to establish that as a true profit center, and they'll be working with businesses in the community, offering not only the national standardized tests, things like the Praxis. Missouri no longer has us give the Praxis, so that's not a requirement for us. Kansas still does, so we're offering that because students from the Kansas schools will be coming over and taking those exams with us. So trying to utilize that and being a good neighbor and offer whatever testing that we can has been helpful. Supplemental instruction, we had great success with that, where departments are being creative and using their own student help budgets to help us fund tutors. You heard Jared talk earlier about tutors. We provide free tutoring on campus, and not just for the general education courses. We have the pathophysiology course, microbiology, the advanced level courses. We provide tutors for those as well. And so the supplemental instruction actually put one of those tutors in that class. He not only went to the class every single time with those students, but met individually with the professor for that class and then held study sessions outside that class. And we had a wide variety of students. It was an anatomy and physiology class. We're targeting this semester some of the math classes that we know are gateway classes, and so hopefully we'll have a similar success there. Bursar's office, you heard Dr. Hodson mention that next Wednesday at 5 is the date for payment. Career services, you have a couple of handouts there, and I just want to bring those to your attention. Our spring career fair, and that's in April 6th, and we end up with usually well over 200 businesses recruiting our students. The other one is the Dress for Success, and I think most of you are aware of this, and you've heard about that, but this is another plea. Most of us are bad about cleaning out closets and getting rid of clothes. We helped several hundred students last year by bringing in gently used clothing. The banks in the area, the Young Professionals Network worked with us. We bring in the clothing, we sort the clothing, and then we have volunteers come in to meet with our students that may not have the opportunity to have business attire and those sort of things. And so if you have any clothing that you want to bring in, definitely get that to us, and we will work with you on that. I'm sorry.
How are those students identified? Do they have to come to us, or how do students know that help's available? I mean, this flyer?
We broadcast, we have flyers out across campus. It will be in the campus newspaper. They'll get campus-wide emails. It'll go on LionNet, which is our intranet for the students. Some of the business classes and communication classes announce it in class for us. So we just try to get the word out as best we can. We don't do a selection process, and you don't have to apply. It's you come over and it's available to you. We want any of our students to take advantage of that if they need to.
Plus, there's that free stuff network among students. So if there's like ice cream cones free.
Facebook is a great friend for that, because they will help us post that. Financial aid, just a quick thing there, and I'll let you read that, but we do get a grant from the state, and we have for the last several years, to help us with our student loan default prevention, to keep students from defaulting on their student loans. And that's a 3-year average that they look at there. Our average for 2011 was 15.8. Our average for 2012 is 11.5, and that's due to a part of our staff using that grant. They purchased software, and actually we were asked to write a blog for the company that has the software because of the efforts that we're doing. Almost a 4% drop in our default rates from our students, and so proud of the work the staff are doing there. Other things on there, I'll let you read at your leisure, but I would answer any questions you might have.
Go ahead.
Of those, going back to your retention issues and your call-a-thon, that's a great idea. But I was wondering about that group of 300 plus that are above 2.5, so obviously successful, good students here that we didn't retain for whatever reason. And probably 3 questions. One, I wonder what their, if you know or have a way to track what their relationship with their advisor is while they're here on campus. And 2, I'm sure you probably do, or is there a way to track what of those students may come back at some point or transfer to other institutions?
Absolutely. All 3 of those are great questions. Those are questions we struggle with, and in the past have not had a good grasp on that. The advisor question is still a little tenuous. When we were able to get a live person on the phone, or if they responded back to us, we definitely asked that. So we have a column of, what were the issues? Some of them, my particular college uses a pen. I forgot my pen, and I haven't called my advisor. Some I've had trouble getting my advisor. They may have been out of town. Some have switched majors, may not know what their advisor is. So all of those, and so we were able to catalog those and address them.
What is the ratio, the student to advisor ratio generally or on average?
There is no real ratio. It
Like-
really is department to department. You have some departments that they may have 5, 7, 10, 12. You have other departments that may have 20 to 30. You have other departments, especially health sciences, that have a huge number.
Okay,
Business. So it really.
because it seems like that could make a difference.
It makes a major difference. To give you an idea, before we merged the Accent, the advising office and the distance learning office, we had really 3 primary advisors that were dealing with that 500 to 900 advisees.
Wow.
Very difficult. If they transfer out, those were questions that we asked, and we're working with our registrar. There's a national database now called National Clearinghouse. We can actually follow up and see if Rob said that he was transferring to Missouri State, we can go into the database this semester and look and see, did he really do that? A lot of our students will tell us if they're transferring. A lot will say, I'm transferring, and they really don't. They've just set out because that's easier than telling us, well, I'm just sitting out, or life has happened and I don't want to do that. Follow up, that's one of the things that we're doing right now is we want to reach out to them if they said they are interested in coming back. Okay, is that a time frame? We'll touch base with them mid-semester, this semester, to see, are you ready to start thinking about the fall semester? Are there any outlying issues that we need to look at? Is there a bill that you need paid? Do we need to get you an advisor, or do you have an advisor? Can we get you in with them before the end of the semester when it's so hectic and chaotic?
That's a great idea.
Great questions.
These are the specific targeted things that historically haven't really done. And I think it's going to really pay, it's all obviously already paying dividends here with the re-enrollments, but following these people, the 325 or how many, that are not many academic problems, they just had something happen to get them re-enrolled, because if you don't, and they lay out a semester, the semester turns into a year, the year turns into 2, the 2 turns into 5, before you know it, they're just lost. So these people we can just stay after now because we know who they are.
When a student withdraws at any point during the semester, they have to do an exit interview with financial aid. Probably 85% of those students will just tell financial aid when we ask the reasons. They'll just say it's financial. We try to dig deeper because we know that many times that's not it. There are other factors out there. We have students that life has really dealt them a pretty heavy blow, no matter what that is, but they're many times reluctant to tell us that. We document as best we can, but then we keep following up to see is there,
Well, and to circle back around, you started out with 1,000, so the enrollment call-a-thon is a great first step, it sounds like.
Governor Fleischhacker, I would like to note before we have to scrape the Director of Annual Giving Up off the floor, we do still have a phone-a-thon. It is not an activity from the bygone era. So.
Good to know. Anything else?
Sorry.
All right, well, at this time, we'll call on our Faculty Senate President, Dr. David Stallo.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem, thank you. I apologize, you don't have my report. I got to looking and discovered it wasn't here, and then I got to looking on my phone and realized I sent it to a different Sharon, so someone's enjoying that rather than you. So I'll make sure I get it to you. I apologize. Craziness of the week and getting started, I didn't really pay attention to that Dropbox there. The Faculty Senate had their meeting in December, and we had a pretty full agenda. Dr. Hodson joined us and talked to us a little bit about the political activity policy that he's working on. And it was quite informative, and the senators asked many good questions, and so there was some good discussion, I think, and we hope we helped as far as giving you some things for that, as you were looking for some things for that policy you're working on. One of the topics that we talked about was the issue of book buyers, and because it's somewhat of a concern. We have people, book buyers, who come and solicit books from faculty members, and some faculty members are bothered by it, some aren't. It's kind of a touchy area, but some of the secretaries in the departments are the ones that sort of have the brunt of that. And so we sent it to the University Council, and then the University Council sent it right back to us. So that's a topic that we're going to be discussing again, because it's more of a faculty issue. But I'm sure a committee will go to work on it, and we'll come up with something on that. We had 2 sets of curriculum we had that were approved in this new process, and curriculum can be approved sort of throughout the year. But we had one particular that wasn't approved last meeting, and that was brought back to us with the changes, and it was approved. And then we had graduate courses changes that were approved by us, and I think that's the first we've done that, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a good thing, because we're moving into the graduate degree realm, and of course our role has taken on the role of the Academic Policies Committee, which dealt with all of those changes before. Their role, of course, is becoming more comprehensive, and so they don't deal with those changes so much. The SCOCs, school curriculum oversight committees, and then the Senate deals with it, and then of course we send it off to you for final approval. But those were approved, and we're really excited about that. We did have 2 sets of, we've really been doing quite a bit of charges to other committees. Delegation's a great thing. And we have been charging a couple of different committees this last semester. And at this last meeting, we charged the Academic Policies Committee, and much of the stuff that Dr. Carson talked to you about, we charged that committee to work in conjunction with her to talk about those things, and we put a date somewhere around April, to have those discussions and to seek out the best things for those that she mentioned. She already mentioned this. The other one was the Faculty Welfare Committee and dealing with the summer school pay and summer school and the formula for that. So they're dealing with Dr. Carson's committee and her, and will be also reporting back to us in April with that. Finally, I guess I'd like to say that I felt like the first semester ended with a bang, and was really a good semester overall. And I will say at the last faculty meeting, which was last Friday, as we began this semester, there was a lot of positive energy at that meeting. There was a lot of laughter. There was just, I think, a really good no. We had some technical difficulties, which were quite fun, but and those pop-ups, and I didn't get a pop-up when I came to speak, so I was Oh, you did?
The year's not over, Dave.
Oh, that's true. It's not.
Brian? No. He wants pop-up.
No, not really. But there really was a good spirit, and the faculty, I think, are very excited about the things coming up. I will say the administration, myself, we're a united team, and it really, I think, felt good. And I think the teachers and the faculty and staff and overall, I think really good about that. And as I told them, and I won't go into the whole story, but as I told them, the great thing about being in education is that you get to start over again many times. And that's a great feeling to be able to, redo something that didn't go so well. So that's all I have for my report.
Any questions or comments of Dr. Charlo? If not, we thank you for your report. And next on our agenda is Staff Senate President Lisa Bryant.
Thank you. We met in January, right after the break, and so we were off to a very slow start with limited agenda items. Next month, I hope to have more to report. However, we do have, we welcome 2 new members to Staff Senate this semester, and Sherry Noller and Sharon Frazier. And then we have 2 very active committees on Staff Senate right now. The Compensation Committee, which is working on a survey to survey other universities of our size about compensation and benefits and just compare ours to theirs. And then the second committee is the Community Service Committee, which was very involved in the MLK Day of Service. Pam Haas worked hours on that, so I just wanted to thank Pam for all her work on that, so. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Next is our Student Senate President, Kyle Prysock.
We're looking forward to moving forward this semester. We spent most of last semester filling seats and getting enough people to actually get things done. And so we'll be working to meet with all of the student club presidents and the diversity council to see what we can do to make sure that their voices are all equally heard, and to give them a forum at which to express anything that they may have on their minds to where they feel like they've been heard. And so we'll continue to do that and represent the student clubs as they come to us for appropriations throughout the semester.
Questions or comments? Not, thank you for your report. I don't think we've had any board committees meeting other than I think the executive committee approving the distribution of funds. So we'll go on in to Dr. Marvel's report.
Thank you, Governor Fleischhacker. I've commented before that the reports, fancy reports that people make up are embarrassing, because you'll notice Governor Franks, I have color on mine this time. Just a little. That's about as fancy as I'll ever get.
You could like make the titles of their colors.
Well, I can do that, I guess, if someone could help me. Little techno challenge sometime. The first item there is certainly the Missouri Southern and KCU Med School MOU signing, which Dr. Carson covered. A couple of things I would point out about that is that we're still talking to him about other agreements. I know that Priest has been talking to Pete, I guess, probably, about some joint use of our rec center, library, athletic, come to our athletic events. And the other thing to remember is that if you go through the numbers that Dr. Carson was talking about, 25 Your Salute students each year, that's 100, 4 years, and 25 alternates, that's another 100. We're talking about 200 potentially either new students or converted students that may have moved from one to the other, but without question, more pressure on Reynolds Hall. That's why we keep talking about it so much, is that right now we have 400 biology majors in that building, along with chemistry and math and everything else that happens there. So it's a very, very important piece, and one of the reasons we're asking for the $10 million extra to expand Reynolds. The second item is holiday brunch and awards we had just before we left for the holidays. It's really a day kind of celebration where we honor people for their years of service. We had, and I think it's included somewhere, a list of the folks who 5, 10, and 15 years, just for your benefit. People do stay here. People get started and like it. This is a good place to be. We also had outstanding service awards to Charles Reed and Edward Kirkendall for classified staff and professional staff Employee of the Year. And they both received $750 each, courtesy of the foundation. So we should say thank you to Mike Kentz and the foundation, and folks who get Brad and folks who make that happen for us. Monday was MLK Day of Service. I think it was probably about as crowded as we can get. I don't know if we get more people where we'll put them, because there were tables to the walls, and it's just a terrific day. Judge Jimmy Edwards spoke and just did a fabulous job, I think, of balancing the successes that we've had from the turbulent days of the 60s and the challenges that we still have that we need to work on in the future. Also that day, we presented Dorothy Cade with a plaque in honor of Dr. Al Cade, who we lost this past year. He lost his battle with cancer. And he really originated and organized this event for like the last 25 years. Fabulous guy, we miss him every day. And I think we owe him a huge debt of gratitude. But we also need to thank Faustina Abrahams and the committee and the staff who helped put that day together, because it takes a lot of organization to make something like that come together. And it really was a fabulous day. The next item is Higher Learning Commission accreditation. I put that on there because I shared with the faculty at the semester opening through video, which we did have a glitch or two apparently, because I was in the NCAA convention with Jared. And
Best trip ever.
It was, didn't work out exactly the way we'd hoped. I think something happened, but it just did start working, I guess. That we need to start working on it. The two things that were pointed out in our last visit from the Higher Learning Commission had to do with shared governance and strategic planning. I think we've made strides in shared governance. We can document that. We have a lot of evidence, which is really the thing you have to concentrate on with the Higher Learning Commission. It's how can you prove it? You have documentation evidence. I think we do. Now it's really time for us to start thinking about strategic planning. And in fact, I included for your benefit a copy of our strategic plan, which is really not a bad place to start. In fact, we've been working kind of from this document all along. So we'll just keep working on it, review it, make sure everything's current, and keep moving toward those goals and objectives. One thing that has changed since this is the Great Game of Education, which is actually a benefit for us because it helps tie our budgeting back to outcomes, which is always a problem for institutions. I know that Dr. Hudson goes around on site visits, and that's probably the single most tripwire that most people fail, is that they have all these goals, objectives, action plans, all this stuff, but none of it connects to how they're budgeting the money. So they say they've got these huge goals, but there's no money going in that direction. The Great Game of Education just helps us connect those dots a lot easier. The NCAA convention that attended with Jared was mostly okay. Some of it was very informative. I thought the part that really struck me the most, though, was Dr. Brian Hanlon. You can go look at his website, Sports Science Institute, under the NCAA, where he has taken it upon himself to move outside just the NCAA, to talk about sports from youth through geriatrics. And he spoke a lot this year. He's the guy that brought about the concussion studies, and they're still doing them, by the way. Very interesting to look at what he's finding out with concussion studies. But this year he spoke mostly about cardiac problems. And fortunately, cardiac health is something that universities take very seriously. All of our athletes, before they start, their hearts will be checked, but we don't know about youth sports. You've got a lot of kids out there that may have cardiac issues that you don't know about, and older adults obviously may too. In fact, he said 3 out of every 1,000 athletes have some sort of serious underlying cardiac condition, and that is the single biggest killer in sports is cardiac arrest, sudden cardiac arrest. So something we need to keep an eye on and keep thinking about how do we take what we know, put it into the community, and help with youth sports too. Kiwanis, which is an odd topic, and really the only reason I put it there is because I had an opportunity to speak to Kiwanis last week, and in a little preparation for a talk that I think Paula and Brad and I gave earlier, we found a couple of quotes from the 1960s when this campus was being opened that I used at Kiwanis. We used in previous presentations, but Governor Hearn said in the 1960s that Missouri Southern is a catalyst for progress. And I think that's something we shouldn't forget, that we are a catalyst for progress. We're not just out here on the hill for no reason. We're to help push this region forward. And that's what I think has happened. I think that's what we should continue to do. Fred Hughes also said, I'm sure if we put the clock ahead 10 years, and this is the 1960s, put the clock ahead 10 years, we would be pleasantly surprised at the changes that have taken place. And I think that's exactly what happened. 10 years from the date this opened, everyone was pleasantly surprised. I think we should dedicate ourselves to making sure that 10 years from now, people are pleasantly surprised with what we do. So both of those things are still very, very current and very important to our business, I think. So just wanted to include that. Any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer.
Mr. Prince. I do want to make a comment about the inherent need for strategic planning. Let me say just 2 things real quickly. We talk about Missouri Southern being a catalyst for progress. I think the institution has to ask the question, who do we want or need to be? Because it's easier to answer the question, who are we, than who do we need to be? I don't think that if we weren't looking at the future, we wouldn't be going down the road with the medical school and the dental school. And those are things that we have to have in this area at this point. But they weren't who Missouri Southern was 5 years ago. So who do we want or need to be? And if we really believe in being a catalyst for progress, that is a question that is at the very top of strategic planning. The second thing that I want us to be mindful of at this point as we look to the future is something that I think most higher education institutions are currently, especially the higher up you go on the pantheon, unaware of, and that is the need to look to the underserved. In all of our recruitment, in all of our discussions, and all of our talk, without saying it, we're really talking about high school kids going on to college. Vast majority of our efforts, the vast majority of our focus is on that. Well, you know, if you're 25 years old, you're from that point on a non-traditional student. You haven't finished college or been involved in college at that point, or you've completed college and you don't have the right skill sets, you're still out there in the marketplace. And in all honesty, that's a bigger market than high school students are, especially since that's actually a demographic that's not seeing significant growth, especially in the Midwest. If we want to serve our area, one of our challenges is to figure out who the underserved are and figure out what role we can play in working for them. So that as a guy who spent the last 2 or 3 years in economic development and the 10 years before that as a strategic planner for corporate America, those are the big questions that I think we have to look at as we go forward at this point. And I'll tell you why. The big buzzword in education is STEM. And it's there for a lot of reasons. One, because that is what is driving a lot of the world, and two, because that's where most of the money is going to be focused in the future. And both of those things are great influences. But we have fallen into, and I shouldn't say that, but it's partly true. We've also developed something down here that's going to drive the science portion of STEM for years. That's obviously the medical relationships that we're building at this point, and that's why, unfortunately, the emphasis on Reynolds Hall is as strong as it is right now. There are 3 other words in STEM: technology, mathematics, and engineering at this point. And I don't think you can be all things to all people, but to my mind, there's actually 2 of those that stand out much more than the third, and that's technology and mathematics. Mathematics is the key to most things, even in science and in other areas at this point. And it's the place where globally the U.S. stands the weakest compared to our competitors. Technology is the thing that is driving everything in our society right now. Let me give you 2 examples in Missouri. It shows you how pervasive the adoption of technology is. For those of you who read about this, St. Louis is becoming one of the centers in America for developing coding programs for young people at this point. And coding simply means their ability to write programming languages at this point. And they're driving it down into the elementary schools at this point. And it's already yielding big bonuses for St. Louis. A little company some of you may have heard of called Square, which is that thing that slips into your iPad or iPhone and allows you to take a credit card, just located a major office in St. Louis at this point. And part of it is because they see the technology people that are going to be available to them in the future. Kansas City is a much more robust example of it. One of the reasons Google Fiber used Kansas City as the very first place they put in Google Fiber was the incredible IT community that's grown up in Kansas City. The bigger payback for them, even beyond that, has been the location in Cerner up there, which is going to be 15,000 jobs in Kansas City over the next decade, with a campus that's already being built on the southern side of campus for this leading medical technology at this point. Now, I could go on in both those locations, and there's a lot more, but especially in Kansas City. Well, it doesn't matter what you're looking at right now in life, technology either is helping us create things, or we have to figure out how to use it at this point. Manufacturing. One of the reasons why we don't have more manufacturing jobs is frankly, we're automating them as fast as we can with robotics. You have to have people with technological savvy to be involved in manufacturing at this point. In using them, business programs in the United States are right now moving very swiftly at the top end of them to bring in what are called big data analysts at this point, where they teach people how to use all this data that's being created in the world. We have to look at technology, what its role is for this institution, and what we can do to bring this area into that marketplace as well. And so I think we're at a great time to talk about it. I applaud everyone who's involved in the science side of it, but the technology and mathematics side of it has to be considered, because otherwise we get passed over as an area. And if we're the catalyst for change, then this is where that conversation needs to start. So I think it's a great time, and that's why I just want to echo your call for this and say I think there's some things we need to make sure are involved in the conversation.
Well said. By the way, mathematics is in Reynolds Hall too. By the way, they're very strong. Technology is an area that we're really taking a good look at. Be making some moves there. Right on target.
Any other comments, questions? If not, I think we're ready to move on into any old business. I believe we haven't. How about new business? I think I have Dr. Carson on here for consideration of academic policy proposals.
So after our big agenda curricular proposals last time we met, I don't have any this time. I will have some next time, but some lingering undergraduate proposals that were sent back for re-review through the process, and we have a large number of graduate program curricular changes we'll be bringing forward next time we meet. Academic policies meets tomorrow, then it goes to faculty senate, and then it will come to this body for approval.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Political activity policy, Dr. Hudson.
All right, I believe you have a copy of this in your binder, Sharon, would that be correct? Okay. A copy of this in your binder. In the fall, the President's Council began to discuss issues surrounding political activity by faculty and staff of Missouri Southern as we move into the 2016 election cycle. It is inevitable in a group of intelligent, engaged individuals that you would naturally have a candidate potentially, either at the local, state, or at sometimes even the federal level. And having a clear policy about the institution's view of those candidacies, the procedures that need to be followed, and the role that both the institution and the employee play in making sure that it is seamless was important for us to codify in a written document. So you have a draft that has been vetted not only by the President's Council, but also by the University Council. I've met with the Faculty Senate, met with the Staff Senate, taken their input, incorporated it into this document, and now we bring it to you for what I anticipate is the first reading, give you some time to think about it, and then take it up for a second reading, I would assume, in the future. Dr. Marble, would you like me to walk them through it, or just give it to them to read, or?
Oh, whatever they prefer. At some point, you probably want to walk through it. This is almost a non-optional policy that we need to adopt due to some things that have happened in Jefferson City over the last year or so with political opponents from college campuses. And we were asked for a policy. But we're also in the process, you recall, of having Hush Blackwell walk us through a policy library. And so the question is, would this be a board policy, or would it be an operational policy that we would use administratively? My feeling is this probably should be a board policy. Hush Blackwell will be here next week, and we can work out exactly where we think all those things need to fit. But my preference would be that this be a board policy that you all work out and set for the organization. Rather than us trying to say, because the board might not agree, want everything to agree with the board. So I would say take it home and look at it. It's the first time we've seen it. Send back changes, suggestions, questions, whatever you might have, and then maybe next time vote on it, because we need to get something in writing in our policy manual that deals with this particular issue.
I had a question about this because this was forwarded us earlier, and this may be something I'm missing, but in the activity section, and it may be that I'm not that political, but I was wondering if we needed a definition of political activity. Because when I was reading that, I thought, well, does this encompass what Alan does when he's talking to legislators about allocating funds for Missouri Southern, or different things that he would do representing the university? I didn't, the way that activity, it's so general, and it says an employee of Missouri Southern State University may not engage in political activity while on duty, and I know what you're getting at, but I was wondering if maybe we needed to define it.
Yeah, a definition would be wonderful, and I'm happy to include that. I've made a note. Really what we're talking about is advocacy for a candidate or for a political party in an election cycle, or being a candidate yourself. So it would not encompass the legislative relation activities that we participated in Jeff City. It would not encompass a wide variety of activities. It's about either being a candidate yourself or supporting a candidate or political party as an employee of the institution.
Yes, and that's what I understood you're trying to accomplish. I just didn't know if political activity is so broad as to it might pick up some of his duties, and obviously we wouldn't want that.
No, not at all.
I'm just gonna comment because I did note the other day when you sent this out that I had some questions. I'm wondering if what we should do is submit our comments or questions to Dr. Hodson. Have you kind of put those together and then maybe send them out to the board members before our next meeting? Then we could discuss those or take those up at our next board meeting.
Yeah,
that would be appropriate.
Did we create this policy, or was it?
We did, and I think it's important to note, and Bill, I'm sorry to jump in, but Section 1 is a statement of existing Missouri revised statute. So there's nothing in Section 1 that we created. We simply took existing law and put it in chunks so that employees would be easy for them to find what the limitations were on their activity based on Missouri statute. Section 2 is drawn from best practices from primarily Missouri institutions, but also there are some national examples that we followed in creating Section 2. And if you go back to what Dr. Marble said about institutions in Missouri getting into trouble when they had employees who were running for political office, that's where we spent a lot of our time in reviewing best practices from across the state. And so we did create Section 2. Section 3, use of facilities, goes back to statute. There are very clear statutory limitations on what you can and cannot do in state facilities. And then Section 4 is ours from best practices. Section 5 goes back to statute. And so it is a conglomeration of existing law and best practices from other universities.
We borrow.
No reason to recreate the wheel. But it is new for us in the sense that it's all in one policy, one document, for the ease of reference.
Would political activity also include campaigning for a particular issue?
I think the term, and I'll add that, but I think the term I used in here was ballot initiative was another.
Yeah, but there's many initiative petition issues that are in front of us, I think. Glad to have something that
That's a good
includes that.
And I know you favor most of those.
Well, I'm just thinking that we could spend a lot of time just raising these questions now. I'm just thinking it might be easier to get these all submitted to Dr. Hodson sometime in the next couple of weeks or so. Certainly prior to our next board meeting, and then he could kind of come up with responses or what questions have been raised and see if
happy to do so.
That would be appropriate.
And I'm also happy to have a phone conversation if that's easier, so either way.
All right. Anybody want to pick anything else up, or is that satisfactory as far as that issue now?
Does this affect the board's proposed occupation of the George Washington Carbon Mine? Or we go ahead and take it over?
It might.
It might.
It might.
We'll have to wait till after our February meeting.
Good point.
Wait, I want that car. Are we gonna?
She's lobbying now.
Yes, we could use that.
Okay, let's see, we covered the Student Leadership Forum, Reynolds Annex, Mr. Hughes.
campus. I'll go as briefly as we can, as you allow. We have a tour set up for y'all. We have a van started, I hope, warmed up, waiting for you. We'll take you down to the annex here momentarily. As we mentioned in this meeting, and as many meetings as I can remember, we've been trying to get funding for Reynolds Hall since before I came to Missouri Southern. And if you recall, back December of 2014, the governor came to the campus, had a press conference on the bottom floor of Reynolds Hall announcing that we were going to get funding. And so at that point, we knew for sure we're going to get some state appropriations, some funding to do some remodeling. We had already made plans on what we wanted to do, but until that affirmation from the governor came, it was always a lot of talk, and we finally got some reassurances that it was actually going to come. So then our thoughts turned to transitioning. When and if we started remodeling Reynolds Hall, what were we going to do with the classes that are being held there? Do we not have classes for a semester or two? Do we close off a section of the area that's going to be remodeled and focus all the classes to another area? Do we try to find a location off campus somewhere? Well, none of those sounded very good, so we had to come to another conclusion of what we needed to do. We recall that Joplin R8 had some pretty nice temporary lab facilities at their mall campus during the transitioning when they were dislocated from their campus on 20th Street due to the tornado. And even some of our instructors had toured some of those facilities, and they said they were really, really nice. Better than our current Reynolds labs. So we thought, well, let's see what we can do. First, we had to figure out where they were located. You know, they're FEMA facilities, and we made some contact with Joplin R8 staff and found out they were located in a lot off of 20th Street on Davis Boulevard. So we drove over there, sure as the world, there they all were. 15 labs, 15 units, plastic on the side, sealed up, ready to go. They had a place, but no home for them, so we were trying to find a home for them. So these are FEMA facilities. We are currently, at the time, building a FEMA storm shelter on our campus. We had a contact with FEMA. I instructed Jack to try to get a hold of our contact with FEMA. He did. Lo and behold, we located them. They said they were at the surplus property site on the state of Missouri site. And by golly, there they were. Top right corner, that's the picture that they had of when they were located at the mall. If you look over there on the left, about midway through the sheet, $940,000 is the cost of those darn things new. That's just the units, and that's not putting them together. That's not any of this. It's just the units themselves. We thought, well, we can't do that. We've got to figure something else out. So Jeff made some contacts again with the surplus property folks. They shot us a price to begin with, I believe, in the $50,000 range. We thought, well, we could probably handle that, but let's see if we can do better. Now, I'm going to take Jeff with me the next time we buy a car, because then he gives me a call a day or two later and said, how do you feel about $9,400? Sold. Let's do it. So, man, that's pretty good. 1% of the cost, and that's what we ended up doing. So we told the folks at the surplus property site that we wanted to buy those things, but the next thing, well, you have to have them moved. And we kind of made some verbal contacts of how much they're going to cost to move 15 units. Well, about $8,000 each. Sakes, that's $100,000 right there. See if we can do something better. Well, once again, I'm going to take Jeff with me. He made some contacts, and he said, how do you feel like FEMA's going to move them free for us? I thought, man, that's great. So we got to figure out a place to put them. So in February, they started to arrive on campus, and we thought, well, let's just put them down, down on a parking lot behind physical plant. Is that the best place for them? We looked at several locations. We thought about, well, what if we set them up down by the tennis courts, south part of the campus? There's no utilities down there. So it's going to be very expensive to run all the utilities down there. So that parking lot sounded even better all the time because it's a pretty good sized parking lot. Wasn't well used by students or staff, and it already had the utilities at that location. So we thought, well, this is where we want to put them, but we need to put them the back part of the parking lot so that we can prepare where they're going to reside for them to eventually be there. So in February, one by one, here they come. We had 15 of these things show up on our campus, and we stuck them on the parking lot around my physical plant. You'll see them all down there lined up at the bottom. That's not where they currently reside. That's where they put them, just so that we can prepare the area just on the other side of that parking lot to where they're going to reside. So we thought, well, okay, we have to hire somebody to do that, and we have to find a way to get the students down there. So we solicited quotes, and we were able to get Sid Davis, Big John's Heavy Equipment, and some of you know Sid, super nice guy, but coincidentally, he's the one that took those things apart at the mall and moved them to Davis Boulevard. So he knew all about them. Of course, he admitted now, he said, I really wish I'd have known you guys were going to get them, because he just kind of cut the wires off and everything real quickly and moved them. If he knew that we were going to take them and had to put them back together, he'd probably been a little more careful in doing that, but we're moving on. We can do that. So we had to design what we wanted to do with them. We put them on the other side of the parking lot. There you can see all the utilities there. We had all water, gas, electricity, everything was there. The parking was there. We arranged for the handicap parking. And we thought, like I said, we had to determine how the students were going to get from Reynolds Hall to there. Well, you see Reynolds Hall over there on the right. We had all that to the BSC, to this building, right in the middle of your screen, was all concrete. So we had to put a new sidewalk between that, across that field. And there's a stairway down, coming down towards the annex. So it was already there. So we just had to put a stretch of sidewalk. So we did that. So we were all ready to go. We had them do that. Sid took about 10 months or so, got it all done, and there we are. This facility is a phenomenal facility. Now it is about 13,700 square feet, or 12,700 square feet. There's classroom facilities, labs. These labs were designed where if we decide to take that lab out, all the utilities are under the floor. So if we want to take the labs out, we can cap off the water and everything we need to do, put some new tile on there real quickly, and that can be converted to a classroom. It's going to be a great transitioning place for anything that we want to do, which kind of we're thinking about for the future when we talk about the possibility of the dental school coming to campus. We may need something like this to transition another academic program or administrative program too. But you'll see this when we go down there. This is a very well-constructed facility. This thing has 16 faculty offices, 3 classrooms, a computer lab, biology lab, 2 physics labs, a prep lab for physics, a prep lab for biology, public men's and women's restrooms, ADA restroom. 146 piers are under this facility to steady it, and it's very steady. You'll see that when you go down there and take a tour. And there's tie downs every 10 feet. There's 135 parking spots around the whole facility. Now, it did cost us about, when we get all said and done, the total price tag for the whole project is right at $800,000. But we had the architects say, okay, if we were to build this thing from scratch, what would it cost us? About $4 million. So we feel we got a pretty good deal for this thing. Well, that's all I want to show you through here. We'll take a tour here. Does anybody have any questions? I have Jeff and Bob here. Bob did a tremendous job in arranging how we want to do this thing and getting this thing set up, and it's worked great. Does anybody have any questions for any of us?
I think you overpaid for it, though.
That we overpaid for it?
Your slide says fair market value was 0.
Yeah. But I think this is going to be a facility that we could utilize for quite a few years during our remodeling and transitioning. And we'll be glad to take anybody that wants to on a tour as soon as the board's meeting is over with. Anybody have any other questions?
Rob, thank you for your presentation. And do we have any other business to come before the board? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Here a second?
Second.
Not sure who made the second. Mr. Franks? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? We are adjourned.
It's outside the doors by the rec center, on the front there.